Hello, listeners, and welcome to episode 157 of the Nigeria Football Weekly podcast. Me, your host, Tolu Arokodare. And today I'll be doing an episode just touching on, it was the transfer deadline day on Monday. So doing a recap of the transfers that we've seen in terms of our players and where they're going to end up at. Also, we had the Champions League draw done last week. So I just want to touch on the Nigerian players that are playing in UEFA competitions. So we all know. And they're doing the usual roundup of our players and who they'll be playing and their games over the past weekend. Of course, the next episode, which should be coming out around the same time, will touch on our Rwanda preview, which is taking place on Saturday, 5 p.m. at the Godzilla Pabio Stadium in Uyo. So, of course, we'll be doing a preview specially on that game and Nigeria's current situation, shall we call it, because that's really what it is, But anyway, without any further ado, let's get cracking. So, transfer news-wise, we've seen quite a few interesting moves over the past few days. The good news for me is we now have an additional 3 players from the Nigeria team playing in the Premier League. So the one that made me happiest is Christantus Uche. So on Sunday, Fabrizio Romano initially reported that Christantus Uche was in London to sign for Crystal Palace, and Getafe expected all formal steps to be completed. He passed his medical and he has officially signed on loan. I believe it's an obligation to buy next summer for about 22 million euros, which is just remarkable for a player who literally this time 2 years ago was playing in the 3rd division in Spain. He even started in 5th division in Spain and was signed for 800 euros by Quetta in the 3rd division, who then sold him to Getafe, and he had a fantastic debut season in La Liga, which has now gotten him into the Premier League. And you can see the excitement from Crystal Palace fans trying to see how he will perform. I think he's probably going to be an Eze replacement, but he doesn't play like Eze, for any Crystal Palace fans that see this. He's more like, he could be a striker, he could be a second striker, he could be a number 10, he can play in midfield, but he's dynamic. He's one of those players that are put in that second striker role, kind of like Cunha, Mbuemo, Nkunku, and he can definitely play alongside Mateta and Ismail Assar. So I think this is a very good move, and I hope he settles in quite quickly. He already speaks the language, of course, which always helps. And he's going to be in London, so that's really good to see. Also, we saw Tolu Arokodare. His move has been confirmed to Wolverhampton. We, of course, did a review of what we thought about the move, and I see a lot of Wolves fans engaging with the content. So you've got a very good striker on your hands, and alongside Strand Larson, I think they have enough to at least do their best to stave off relegation, So looking forward to seeing how Arokodare performs in the Premier League. Also, when you look at how eloquent he is and how he speaks, you can see that there's someone who takes his branding seriously, and I think it must be kudos to him because we can see the effect, Also, Samuel Chukwueze is going on loan. He's gone on loan to Fulham with an option to buy. Total package could reach 25/26 million euros. It's not been a great move for him at AC Milan. His 2 years there were pretty rubbish, if we're being harsh, and it was okay at best, if we're being honest. Hopefully he can play well at Fulham. We know he's a right winger, and right now right wing is not necessarily the best position that Fulham have. They had Harry Wilson there and Adama Traore, but none of them are like certified starters. So the jury's out to see if Chukwueze can step up to the plate and actually deliver in the Premier League. I'll be honest that when I look at Chukwueze's career in the past 6 years, I'm not sure we've seen too much improvement. Maybe that sounds a bit harsh, but when you think about the potential Chukwueze had and how he started, mind you, Chukwueze even used to start for Nigeria in AFCON 2019 when Osimhen was still a non-factor and only played bronze medal games, just to tell you the trajectory of their careers and how one has kind of stalled and the other one has, just shot straight to the top. So let's see how Chukwueze can perform. I'm a bit concerned about the physicality of the league and how he will deliver. But look, let's see. I think his decision making will have to improve significantly for him to be, pretty good in the Prem. But of course, we wish him well and we hope that all works out for him. Other moves to other leagues that we need to mention: Victor Boniface has moved on loan to Werder Bremen. It must be said that this is very underwhelming. We have to be honest. This is a player that won the Bundesliga unbeaten, scored 21 goals in the seasonal competitions. Last year, he lost his spot and fell out of favour with Xabi Alonso. But for them to have even sacked Ten Hag on the same day that they let Victor Boniface go to Werder Bremen. It tells me that their director of football, Simon Rolfs, was very happy for Boniface to leave. You know, Patrick Schick has continued banging in goals for them, and they've signed a few other players. But for them to lose faith in Boniface this quickly is quite concerning, you know. And then Werder Bremen, even though they finished 8th in the Bundesliga, you know, it doesn't exactly scream like European heritage, you know. They're pretty much comfortably mid-table Bundesliga team. They finished 8th, they finished 9th, they finished 7th, they finished 13th over the last 4 or 5 years. So that just tells you the level of expectation. However, he'll be playing with another Nigeria international, Felix Agu, and if he can have a decent season and maybe just show and prove his fitness and score some goals, maybe we'll revisit his situation in the summer. But very underwhelming move, but I'm not surprised. When you hear the way Boniface talks and acts like he's not taking things seriously, I don't want to insinuate, but you have to say that there must be some lines that you can put the 2 and 2 together. And anyway, we wish him well. He's still a Nigerian player. No goals for Nigeria, telling us that he's not doing Super Eagles again. Now they're not even calling him up again. So you can't really blame anybody but himself, to be honest with you. So he needs to really focus on his career and what he's going to do this season. I even saw a rumor that some Premier League teams want him and he said he doesn't want to go to Premier League. Brother, you're not in any position to be dictating terms. You are not a Werder Bremen player. You're not going to be in football consciousness like you think over the next season, like Onyeka or Oberg last year. So just knuckle down and do your best, and we'll see where you end up at. Also, Cyriel Dessers has moved from Rangers Panathinaikos in a 3-year deal. Obviously, he's 30 years old, so he's looking for his final payday, and I'm sure he would have got a significant salary increase by the Greek Giants. However, it's still an underwhelming move. You know, Panathinaikos are not exactly Olympiacos these days, or even Aikathens, you know, when you look at their performances, or even PAOK, where Trustekong won the Greek League a few seasons ago. But we wish him well. At least he's in the Nigeria squad for the first time outside the friendly, so let's see what he can contribute and what he can do. Kelechi Iheanacho's Sevilla contract got terminated by mutual consent on Monday. No surprise there. I mean, he's had an awful 2 years, to be honest. Like, this is a player on the verge of almost, if he's not careful, you know, the Samuel Kalu, Emmanuel Dennis situation whereby no club really wants them in any top leagues. They've not been able to prove that they could even be consummate professionals. They're literally in no man's land right now. But Kelechi Iheanacho got a saviour in the form of the Scottish champion Celtic, who offered him a 2-year contract, which he signed. He'll get to play under Brendan Rodgers, although Celtic are not in the Champions League. They will play in the Europa League. But let's see what Iheanacho can do. I'm not so sure if he'll start necessarily, but of course, the jury's out, because this is a player that just needs to focus on reviving his career as far as I'm concerned at this point in time. Also, we saw Gift Orban move from Hoffenheim to Verona on loan. This is another player that is not serious to his career, if we're being honest. You know, if Hoffenheim signed you in January and they're willing to let you go in the summer on loan to Verona in Italy, Lyon signed you for 1 year, they're ready to let you go after 6 months to go on loan. That just tells me that you're not a serious player. It has to be said, you know. It's a shame, because when he was scoring all those goals for Ghent, people thought he was going to go straight to the top, scoring those hat-tricks in the Conference League, you know, and showing walk-ins, but something is not right. I don't know what it is, but anyway, we wish him well, and let's see if he can revive his career in Italy. Gabriel Osho has moved from Auxerre Cardiff City in League One. He literally moved from League One, the 5th strongest league in Europe, to League One in England, the third best league in England alone. So, to be honest, I'm not going to mention Gabriel Osho again. Maybe it's for personal reasons, I don't know, monetary reasons, because, you know, English clubs have money and Cardiff are not necessarily broke. But when you move to League One in England in your career, you know what you are doing for yourself professionally. So bye-bye, you get your 1 cap for Super Eagles, and that's it. We wish you all the best, but you are clearly not trying to shoot for the stars in terms of big moves. Emmanuel Dennis, as I said, his contract has been terminated by Nottingham Forest. We'll see what happens with that one in his next steps. Asisat Oshoala, another person that's at the twilight of her career, it must be said. She moved to BFC as a designated player and basically did nothing, not much, to be honest. You know, BFC were probably happy to let her go, and she's now moved to Al Hilal in Saudi Arabia, so she can go and collect money and play in a much easier league, because it must be said that her powers are fully waned. Even for the national team, she's not a starter. She's not even a player that you could necessarily rely on with 30, 40 minutes to go. You know, she will get, you know, here you go minutes, so to speak, but she's been a servant for Nigeria. She's been amazing. She's had an amazing career, and wish her all the best. And then finally, I just wanted to touch on Ademola Lookman. Lookman, they made some noise that there was interest from Bayern Munich and Tottenham. Remember, Inter were initially interested, but they didn't want to stop up the cash. Syria teams are broke, we know that. We then heard that Bayern Munich tried to get him on loan when they thought the Jackson move could not work. But them too, they brought a very derisive offer. And then Tottenham decided to get Kolomwani instead of Lookman, which is also fine. Well, I heard some rumors that Galatasaray were monitoring him because the Turkish league transfer window is open till September 12th. But yesterday, Tuesday, September 2nd, was the deadline for teams to submit their players for European competitions. And Ademola Lookman was actually included in Atalanta's squad for the Champions League. Which means that if you're a Galatasaray or Fenerbahce, what is the point? Because you're not going to commit all those funds to a player that cannot play in your Champions League games. That's literally the main thing separating Galatasaray from the rest of Turkey. They get to play 8 Champions League games. They have a lot of money. I read an amazing article talking about, the tax breaks players get in Turkey and the work that Galatasaray and Fenerbahce are able to do to finance their clubs by selling off real estate at huge amounts in dollars as well because of the volatility of the Turkish lira. So quite an interesting article, but I think now we can just close this chapter and say that Lookman will at least remain at Atalanta until January at the very least. Obviously, he's not been happy and he put in a transfer request, but I'm hoping that he can dust himself off and face his football because, my word, do we need him. He's now arrived in Nigeria's camp to play games in World Cup qualifiers and has not played any games this season. He had a slight injury, must be said, but we need to see it back to doing what he does best, which is scoring goals and getting assists. I think Lookman is also a very good example of why, as a player, you must brand yourself. This is the current African Footballer of the Year, and everybody knows how talented he is and respects him, but his rep in football is not where it needs to be based on the performances he has delivered. And yes, you could say he's quiet and all that, but this is why you have professional PR people. You have professional agencies that do the work for you. Where are the brand deals? Where's the visibility for Lookman? African Footballer of the Year. And he can't even get a move, and he has to stay in Atalanta. I mean, it's not the end of the world. Atalanta is still in Champions League. They may still compete for a top 4 spot in Serie A this season, even though Gasperini has left. The jury is out on Ivan Juric. No pun intended, but that guy was sacked by Southampton at Roma last season. So let's just see. Atalanta have played 2 games. They've drawn both of their games. But Skamaka's back, and I think if Lookman can integrate himself back, he will be their best player. So watch this space and let's see what happens with Lookman. Now, last week, Thursday, the Champions League draw was done for this new season that's just started. Of course, now we're in the international window. But I just wanted to call out the Nigerian players in the Champions League. We have a total of 7 players that will be playing in the Champions League that are Nigerian, which is a good amount. Obviously, the more you have, the merrier. When you think about the typical so-called top national teams in the world, they easily have anywhere from 15 to 20. So when you talk of the Frances, the Englands, the Brazils, most of their players play in the Champions League by default anyway, But anyway, 7 is a good number. We've got Ademola Lookman for Atalanta, and I'll just touch on the big games he'll be playing. So we'll see him play against PSG away. We'll see him play against Marseille away. We'll also see him come to Stamford Bridge, host Chelsea in Atalanta, and also host Athletic Bilbao at home. Also, he's got a fixture at home against Club Brugge, where he'll play against Rafael Yedika, and also at home against Slavia Prague, where he will play against Igor Ugbo. Nathan Teller's Bayer Leverkusen will also be in action in Champions League. They've got games against Copenhagen away, PSV at home, a big one against PSG at home, Benfica away, Man City away. So we'll see Nathan Teller at the Etihad, and then Bayer Leverkusen also hosts Newcastle at home, and Olympiacos away, and then finally Villarreal at home. Rafael Yedika versus Suji's Club Brugge. I like that he's got a lot of games to put himself in the shop market. So he plays Monaco at home, Atalanta away. He goes to the Allianz Arena to play Bayern Munich away. Club Brugge also hosts Barcelona at home, so that'll be very good visibility. Sporting Lisbon away. Arsenal at home, so we're coming. So another chance to see Yedika. And then Kairat Almaty away and Marseille at home. As for Victor Osimhen, superstar, we will see him play Liverpool at home, Frankfurt away, Bodo Glimt at home, Ajax away, Union Saint-Gilloise at home, Monaco away, Atletico Madrid at home, and more exciting for me, we will see Victor Osimhen go to the Etihad Stadium to play Manchester City. So good visibility for all those Prem teams that have spent the whole summer looking for striker, but yet the striker that is better than everybody else not named Isaac. Even Isaac is debatable because I know if you put Osimhen's career achievements against Isaac's own, I know who I'm picking, you know. And they say this is salary, but Galatasaray could pay the salary, and teams in England claim they cannot pay. It's not making sense. Although I heard that Osimhen does not have an agent, so I don't know how true that is, but maybe that also plays a part into the perception. But anyway, looking forward to those games. Ileni Kena at Monaco. He will play Man City at home, Tottenham at home, Real Madrid away, and Juventus at home as the standout fixtures. Bruno Yemachi will also play the Champions League, so that's good to see when your left back is going to start games for in the Champions League. What this means is, at the very least, we can say we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At least 5 starters out of our 11 that play in the Champions League, which is always good to see. So Yemachi will come to the Emirates to play against Arsenal. He'll go to the Nou Camp to play Barcelona away. He'll also get to play against Real Madrid at home and Bayer Leverkusen at home. And then finally, the Slavia Prague boys, Igor Ugbo and David Moses. This is why I'm very annoyed that Igor Ugbo was not called up at the expense of someone like an Awaziem. Igor Ugbo is going to be playing Champions League for Slavia Prague. He will play Atalanta away. He will play Arsenal at home. He will play Athletic Bilbao at home. He will come to Tottenham Stadium to play them away. And then Slavia Prague also hosts Barcelona at home. So watch this space. Also, just for the sake of knowledge, we also have 9 dual nationals who are eligible for Nigeria, who will also be competing in the Champions League. Wisdom Mike, he plays for Bayern Munich. He could play for Nigeria or Germany. Honest Anoho, remember I spoke about him, breakout player for Genoa last season. He's made the move to Atalanta, so he'll play with Lookman as well. He's the current under, I think, 17 or under 18 Italian international. Kani Chukwueze, of course, he's moved to Borussia Dortmund. He's eligible for England and Nigeria. If I was Kani Chukwueze, I'd be calling NFF ASAP. Come and build your career. Stop waiting till it's too late. You're already 21. Of course, we have the 28-year-old that I don't really like mentioning, but Shai is playing Champions League. Adarbayo, Chelsea. We've also got Nnamdi Collins, who plays for Eintracht Frankfurt. He's eligible for Germany. German Onuga, he could play for Nigeria or Russia. He's 29, playing for FC Copenhagen, so probably will never get caught up for us. And then Rio Ngumoha, who scored the winning goal for Liverpool against Newcastle last week. He is also of Nigerian descent. And of course, William Osula, the one who plays for Newcastle. He's also eligible for Nigeria. And of course, we cannot forget Ethan Nwaneri, who plays for Arsenal, although it's very unlikely he will play for the Super Eagles. In the Europa League, we'll see Olaino and Tyrone Oni's Nottingham Forest. Cyriel Dessers will also be playing the Europa League for Panathinaikos. Emmanuel Fernandez for Rangers, the centre-back. Zaidu Sanusi, our other left-back, will be in action. Terry Murphy for Nice. Rafael Durosimi for Victoria Pilsen, both strikers. Philippe Otele for FC Basel. He's a right winger that I'm trying to look at more deeply to understand if he's someone that could be a prospect for us. Franklin Uchenna and Peter Olayinka, Red Star Belgrade, will also play in the Europa League, as will Yirasor and Mujade Sadiq for Genk. Also, there are a few other players who are not yet playing for Nigeria, but Bamdele Yusuf at Ferencvaros, Noah Atubolu, the goalkeeper who's under 23 international for Germany, playing for Freiburg, Emmanuel Ekong, he plays for Malmo, Nigerian/Swede, Shola Shoretire plays for PAOK, he's an England youth international but could play for Nigeria, and then there's Tochi Chukwani, who plays for Stormgrass and is eligible to play for Denmark and Nigeria. In the Conference League, we also have 3 players of Nigerian descent. So, 3 Nigerian players. So, Papa Daniel Mustafa's NC Kelje will play in the Conference League. Francis Zoho's Omonia Nicosia, and also Emmanuel Uchenna, the left-back/centre-back for Sparta Prague. There are a bunch of other players who play in the Conference League who are either eligible for Nigeria or other nations, but there's no need to mention all of them. But I'll say watch Emmanuel Emega, who plays for Strasbourg. He's a Netherlands under 20 international, but is eligible to play for Nigeria as well. Now, a few standout performances from the week. We didn't have too many, but a good amount. Mainly in the Turkish league, to be honest. But starting with Moses Simon. I know I criticize move to Paris FC, but when they do well and when you see the improvements, you have to call it out. And over the weekend, Moses Simon played 90 minutes, got a goal and an assist as Paris FC beat Metz 3-2 on Sunday. Very, very good finish as well from Daddy Simon, Super Eagles vice captain, and really, really good to see. Also, Frank Oyeka played 19 minutes and got an assist for Brentford, although they did lose 2-1 Sunderland, with Sunderland scoring 2 goals goals in the final 5 minutes, which was a bit unlucky. Now, the Turkish boys, Victor Osimhen, of course, back scoring again, back starting games. He played 90 minutes and scored a goal as Galatasaray beat Rizespor 3-1 on Saturday. And then Polonachu also scored a goal for Trabzonspor in their 1-1 draw against Samsunspor on Sunday. Also, Anthony Dennis, another central midfielder that honestly we should be looking at much more closely. He played 90 minutes and scored for Göztepe in their 1-1 draw against Konyaspor on Saturday. So, moving on to the player reviews as usual, Ola Aina was in action for Forest as they surprisingly got thrashed 3-0 by West Ham. It must be said that West Ham are really good in this game. Kalmusin, fantastic goal. Bowen, fantastic goal. Like, literally, everything was just working. Paqueta with the fantastic celebration, saying he's going to stay, you know, kissing the badge and everything. That was quite exciting. But Ola Aina, they go again. Time to focus on Nigeria. Iwobi and Bassey also both started, but Fulham lost 2-0 to Chelsea. Very unlucky. Josh King scored a great goal, which VAR somehow disallowed. But it must be said that João Pedro was really good for Chelsea, and they ended up deserving their win. I already spoke about Frank Onyeka's assist in their 2-1 loss to Sunderland, and Ahmed Abdullahi was not in the squad for Sunderland in that game. Other Premier League fixtures to round up: Everton beat Wolves 3-2 away, with Jack Grealish getting 2 assists. Bournemouth beat Tottenham 1-0 away. Pretty good result. Man United scored a last-minute penalty to beat Burnley 3-2. And then Leeds United and Newcastle drew 0-0 on Saturday. Also, we saw Brighton beat Man City 2-1 on Sunday. Early kickoff at 2 p.m. And then Liverpool beat Arsenal 1-0 courtesy of a great free kick by Szoboszlai, which was pretty annoying, but it is what it is. International break is here. And then finally, Crystal Palace thrashed Aston Villa 3-0. So the vibes are still up. Maguire scored a special goal. Mateta with a penalty. And Ismail Assar also scored in this game. So looking forward to seeing Christantus Uche come into this side and see what he could do. So anyway, Liverpool remained the only unbeaten team with 3 points, 3 wins from 3 points. I mean, Chelsea are also unbeaten. They're second with 7 points. And then you have about 5 teams on 6 points with 2 wins from their first 3 games, including Arsenal and Tottenham. So that's it for now. In Cyriel, Lookman was not in the squad for Atalanta's 1-1 draw, as we've already spoken about. Aki Somiro was on the bench for Pisa and their 1-0 loss to Roma. Fisao Dilibashu played 78 minutes and started as Lazio finally got their first win of the season in a 4-0 win over Verona. Samuel Chukwueze was on the bench in the 2-0 win for AC Milan, of course, because he was moving to England. And then David Okereke played 60 minutes for Cremonese in the 3-2 win over Sassuolo. Cremonese have now signed Jamie Vardy, so I'm not sure how that's going to affect David Okereke's minutes, but let us see. Consummate professional Christantus Uche, before he made his move to Crystal Palace, he did play his final game for Getafe, although they did lose 3-0 to Valencia on Friday, but at least he left while playing all games. Chinedu Ejike played 18 minutes and went off injured, while Akko Adams was not in the squad for Sevilla as they're nursing an injury. But they did win. What was the scoreline? Anyway, they won their match. I know that. And then Omar Sadiq was not in the squad for Real Sociedad, but I'm not sure what's going to happen with Sadiq because I didn't hear of any transfers happening at the end. In the Bundesliga, Nathan Teller got an assist for Bayer Leverkusen in a 3-3 draw against Werder Bremen, which they were winning 3-1 and then ended up drawing 3-3, which is why Eric Ten Hag was sacked on Monday. So let's see who comes in for Leverkusen as their new manager to help with that situation. Felix Agu played 90 minutes in that game for Werder Bremen, and Boniface will now be joining him. Tornarigas played 90 minutes as Hamburg lost 2-0 to St. Pauli. Very, very bad result for Hamburg, it must be said. And then Kevin Akpoguma was on the bench for Fulham in a 3-1 loss to Frankfurt. In France, Terry Murphy played 23 minutes as Nice lost 3-1 to Le Havre. That's my problem with Nice, man. They're so inconsistent. And then Moses Simon, of course, scored and got an assist in Paris FC's 3-2 win over Metz. Chidozie Awaziem also played for Nantes in their 1-0 win over Auxerre. Elen Kenna played 11 minutes for Monaco in their 3-2 win over Strasbourg, while Hamzat Ojediro was not in the squad for Lens in their 3-1 win over Brest on Friday. In the Portuguese league, we saw Zedu Sanusi play 32 minutes for Porto in their 2-1 win over Sporting Lisbon. Now, this is looking more like the Porto I remember. Beating big teams, beating their rivals, reminding the people who the top dogs in Portugal are. You know, very, very good to see. And I think Sanusi's return to the national team cannot be that far away if he continues performing the way he's performing. In Belgium, Onyedika played 90 minutes as Club Brugge, of course, thrashed Rangers 6-0 last week to qualify for the Champions League. And then he played 90 minutes on Sunday in their 1-1 draw against Ghent. As for Genk, Irasour played 23 minutes in their 2-1 loss to Lech Poznan in Europa League, which is why they'll be playing in the Conference League. They did win on aggregate, 6-3, which is why they're in the Europa League. But he was not in the squad for their 3-2 win over Zulte Waregem game on Sunday. Benjamin Fredericks continues to play games, although his team are pretty useless. They're in the relegation zone. They lost 3-1 Sporting Charleroi. I can understand trying to help Fredericks, but it don't make sense to not call up Igbo, in my humble opinion. And we also saw Chibuike Ukwemesi play 17 minutes for Louvain in their 1-0 win over Standard Liège. I've already spoken about 3 of the players we track in Turkey, but Wilfred Ndidi also played 90 minutes for Besiktas as they lost 1-0 to Lausanne in the Conference League qualifiers on Thursday, which means that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was sacked. And it was Arsenal, actually Nathan Butler, Oyedeji, the Arsenal youth player who ended up moving in the summer to Switzerland, who scored the winning goal that led to that dismissal. However, Ndidi did play 90 minutes on Sunday as Besiktas lost 2-0 to Alanyaspor. So I'm sure he's very happy to be out of there and coming to play for Nigeria, because how can it be the start of the season and Besiktas already the crisis? But anyway, it's Turkey for you, it comes with the territory. Onyemachi was on the bench for Olympiacos, their 2-0 win over Volos on Saturday. So this is why I say that Sanusi is definitely on his way back, but we continue to monitor. As for Scotland, Emmanuel Fernandez and Cyriel Dessers were both on the bench for Rangers' 6-0 loss on Wednesday. And then Dessers played his last game for Rangers over the weekend in their 1-1 draw against Celtic in the Old Firm derby. So that's it in terms of the players to track for this week. Starboy of the week is very simple this week. Polonarachi gets the bronze medal for his goal for Trabzonspor against Samsunspor. Silver medal goes to Victor Osimhen for scoring his second goal of the season in the 3-1 win for Galatasaray. And Starboy of the week has to go to Moses Simon for his goal and assist for Paris FC in their 3-2 win against Metz, which is also their first win of the season. And it looks like that project may just be better than some of us initially assumed. So looking forward to that. Anyway, that's it for this episode of the podcast, and really looking forward to obviously focusing fully on the Super Eagles for the next 10 days or whatever it may be. So watch out for that preview of that game, and really, really excited to watch the Super Eagles. So until next time, I've been your host, Tolu Arokodare. Please remember to follow us at Nigeria Football Weekly on all social media channels except Twitter, where we're at NFWPOD. Thank you, take care, and hopefully Super Eagles no go shimos on Saturday. Ciao, ciao.
Thanks for watching this video. Please like, share, subscribe, and click the bell to get a notification whenever we drop a video. You can also find our social media channels listed below. And of course, up Super Eagles and Nigerian, they ever carry last.